Okay, so hi everybody. Thank you for having me along today. I'm really excited to be here amongst my fellow nerds. As Ian has kindly said, my name is Rosie Fox. I work at the School of Law at the University of Leeds, and this is a work in progress that I've been implementing in my classroom for some time, and I'm hoping to launch into sort of a full empirical like teaching scholarship project because it seems to be working, and it would be good to kind of get out there to more people. So thank you for coming to hear about my quest. Just a brief overview of what this presentation includes. So we'll find out what safety tools are. I'll give you a kind of why I think safety tools are important to use in the classroom, how they are used in tabletop role-playing games, and then kind of how I've transferred those over to my classroom, and cover some examples of safety tools and how they might be used then. I've also got a sample of student feedback for us to have a look at as well. So students so far, unprompted in module feedbacks or in emails and stuff, have told me that they found this stuff useful, which has got me thinking, yeah, I should probably go and get some like proper data on this in future. And then there's time for sort of questions and comments and reflections as well. So a brief bit about me. This is a screen cap from one of my lectures teaching module called Law and Society, among other things, at the university. They're trying to introduce myself to the students, and the captioning of the video just picked up. But yeah, so I'm a person, and that was about as far as I got my intro of myself. But I'm into a lot of nerdy things. So people are best know me by the fact that I have two cats that I go on about forever, and I've in fact got them sat on either side of me at the moment. The chocolatey one is Bellamy, and the little sort of more white one is I work with the project Laws of Drag, which I'm working with colleagues to explore the lived experiences of drag artists and law and what that is like. So if that sort of thing is interesting to you, please let me know. You don't have to be like a person who does drag. You don't really have to do law necessarily to join in. We're always looking to expand the network there. And then I play a bunch of games in my spare time. My great loves Pokemon. I unashamedly play Genshin Impact because I'm one of those people, and I've played Yu-Gi-Oh for a long time as well. So I'm into a lot of kind of varied, nerdy stuff in and around my everyday life. Another reason that I have found the Safety Tools project important is because I also have kind of like a lot of needs and accommodations and stuff. So one of those is that I have ADHD, which you may have already picked up on by my extreme fidgeting and speech pattern anyway. But also I'm quite an anxious person, as the little bits are meant to, on the slide, are meant to represent. I'm quite an anxious person. I have chronic fatigue. I have asthma. I'm just a melting pot of fun conditions. And I'm also a queer person. So I identify along a lot of sort of character markers, and the reason of safety tools and exploring those is that I want to create safe and inclusive spaces for everybody in my classroom and everyone that I sort of speak with. So kind of no matter what they're experiencing, I hope that I can create what is an inclusive space. Before I go forward, I'm very aware that words like inclusive and safe space have been very kind of corporatized and marketized at the moment. So I am kind of like seeking alternatives, or at least like disclaimers when I talk about those things. So I'm aware of some of the sort of more controversial aspects around talking about this is a safe space, or like this is an inclusive space. But very much to make people feel as comfortable as possible. Whoops, I tapped my laptop there. The wrong moment. So in terms of this session, to practice kind of what I'm preaching, essentially, safety tools in this session, a content note for anybody who may need it. There'll be a mention of the dark themes in my tabletop game. So I'll be mentioning that I run a Castlevania-themed D&D game at the moment, and so there'll be some mentioning of kind of dark themes within that. Please ask me any questions. Obviously, I know there's an encouragement to use the chat for questions, which is great, but also, please type in the chat. Please raise your hand. No judgment from me on whatever you ask. I really want to know what you think, and I want to help and answer those questions if I can.
Chitty! Hey, man.
Oh, hello. I don't pick on people to speak. And if I ask to contribute, you can do that. Please take breaks if you need it. Don't feel like you've got to stick around for my entire talk. You don't need my permission. Don't feel guilty if you step away from the screen. And if you feel affected by anything that we cover in the session, if you're upset or worried or anything, please do seek support. So in terms of what safety tools are essentially a technique, and it's used to help participants in any sort of activities. So whether we are learning, whether we are playing games together, even as participant in empirical research, as academics maybe, we want to help people feel comfortable and accommodated for. And they do a number of things. I've listed some of the what I perceive the benefits to be on the slide here as well. So safety tools, first of all, help us as the person kind of facilitating a session identify any potentially upsetting or difficult content within the session, or anything, activities or anything like that, and then help us to make our participants aware of that content. So we find the means to articulate it. And give people a heads up for it as well. We also then can equip our participants with ways to inform us of what they need and to take action to help themselves feel safe. And whether that's we offer support for ourselves.
No word from the people who've dead named me, but a different email.
Support and safety networks.
Marketing.
Oh, I can hear someone chatting away. Sorry. On there. Thank you. Help our participants inform us of their needs and then to take action to help themselves feel safe, and also enable our participants to give feedback on the safe tools. So it's kind of really done, and I say that to my students. Have been like, I draw on a lot of my own experience as a neurodivergent person, as an anxious person, as a disabled person, but I don't have all the experiences of a person, because no one does. So I'm constantly kind of seeking feedback to how I can improve my practice here. So in terms of why we need them, I've tapped into this a little bit already, but to kind of expressly say, when we're teaching, many of our students and colleagues have had experience that make encountering certain topics or doing certain activities upsetting for them. And we need to recognise difference, and recognise difference is not something that's bad, but something that obviously makes our teaching sessions quite special and interesting, and make sure that we're not causing unnecessary upset with the materials and topics that we cover. And some of this stuff I appreciate are core parts of what we teach. So as I said, I teach in higher education. I teach, among other subjects, I teach criminal law. Criminal law covers a range of really upsetting cases, upsetting topics. It's not necessarily about taking all of those things out of our curriculum to make it really kind of cozy and safe. That, oh, I wish I could. Some of the stuff's necessary to talk about, right? Consent is a huge thing we need to talk about. We need to talk about violence in various forms. It's kind of essential. By not talking about stuff, we don't raise awareness about it and help our students to kind of deal with that. But it's about making sure that we don't unnecessarily cause that upset. Lots of my students understandably struggle with some violent offences stuff. Some of them have unfortunately had first-hand experience of that. They often find that they can still participate in dance rather than being surprised with it during the session, for example. So it's about equipping students to be able to tackle head on. It's something this today, but if they still need to, they feel they need to make the choice to step out of that session and perhaps catch up later in an independent meeting, then that's also an option as well. So safety tools then mean that we can support our students so we can learn about the issues that affect them in a way that is comfortable and not subject to unnecessary stress, trauma, or anxiety for something that already induces those things. So how they're used in TTRPGs. Many of you probably in this room play TTRPGs already. You probably use some of this stuff, so you'll be familiar. So excuse me if I'm teaching you about things you already know. Mainly safety tools are used to establish the rules of collaborative play. So we talk about things like table etiquette and respect, and what is permitted at the table and what isn't. And my way of approaching this is this should be implemented without judgment. Like, if somebody is like scared of, moths, for example, don't be scared of. Like, it just is how it is. The human brain does weird things sometimes. So implement these things without judgments. All participants should have the opportunity to contribute, and how they contribute is, again, you can think about that. Do you sit around the table and have a chat together? Do you get them to message you privately? Do you roll around Post-it notes and drop them into a jar? Think about the ways in which you might do that. And then during play, the tools that you agree upon, use them to pause play, perhaps change the direction of play, and not dissimilar to what the previous talk was saying about as well. So changing the kind of situation at the table, empowering players to articulate when they feel uncomfortable, and more things. I'll link some resources on the second to last slide as well, so you can go and have a look. So there's been a lot of stuff written about this by people in the TTRPG space where they've developed comprehensive guides on this, and it's super useful. Lots of people enjoyed games with dark and mature themes, so thinking about Vampire the Masquerade, Blades in the Dark, Curse of Strahd in D&D, ones I cited in my abstract. So people enjoy dark and mature themes, but they want to be able to do so with relative safety, because we're supposed to be so my own game is very heavily themed on Castlevania, through playing Castlevania games and then watching the Netflix animated series. And my players affectionately refer to it as D&D Mania. Some of the safety tools we use there are lines and veils. We have some content warnings there. We have a WhatsApp chat. I always have WhatsApp open on my laptop whilst I'm DMing, so a player can message me privately during the sessions if they want. And anybody is allowed to call a break sessions as well. So as I say, resources are on the second to last slide. If you want to have a look at any of those kind of lists that have been very ably compiled by people in the TTRPG space online. So some examples of safety tools. This is not an exhaustive list by any means, but some of the ones that I found I've been using most commonly are things like a list of subjects that is potentially triggering or upsetting. So, for example, if I'm giving a lecture, I might have a list of safety excuse me. I might have a list of topics within the lecture that are potentially triggering or upsetting to people. I present different options for students to ask questions to me in terms of again raising their hand or putting stuff in the chat, or they can email me after the class, realizing that my students will have different levels of confidence and anxiety about asking those questions, and they're all starting at different places there, and knowing that there's no single way for them to ask a question, and I'd rather they asked it in a way that felt comfortable and they got the support that they needed, or got the query answered that they have about the as well. Sorry, so list of subjects potentially trigger or upsetting. I tend to do that for a whole module, and then content notes I might do in individual lectures. Open door policy, I do this in lectures, but especially in my small group, tutorial seminar classes, let my students know they can leave if they need to without permission or explanation. This is not just when they find something necessarily, but if they just need to go to the toilet, if they want to go and refill their water bowl, they don't have to stick their hand up and ask permission for me. And very much because I teach in university space, we're adults, that's completely fine. But also that then covers if they did need to leave because they were upset, they don't have to then stick their hand up and explain to me or the entire class what's going on. So we have that policy just established. I just say to them, do come back and collect your stuff, or arrange someone to collect your stuff if you had to head out for more of an emergency, because otherwise we're going to end up with a stack of laptops. You could potentially use this one I haven't implemented yet, but I might do in future, NX and O cards, which students could use to indicate and they can be made to represent different things, to say whether the students comfortable continuing or need to stop, need to pause. And then debrief as well, always including, especially for a lot of our students, there'll be resources across the institution, so putting them in the direction of those resources, also reminding them that they've got family and friends they can lean on, that they can come and talk to me, that kind of thing, where they can go to seek support, and letting them know it's okay to feel affected by stuff. Like I say, I teach criminal justice, I teach criminal law, I teach land, so I teach about evictions and tenancy, I teach about law and societies. So I talk about neurodivergence in the criminal justice. We cover a lot of difficult things. And I say to them, yeah, you guys are learning to be lawyers to some extent, but it's okay to feel affected by stuff. And if you do feel affected by it, then what's important is what we do after the fact. So in terms of what my students think about this, and have just written stuff unprompted in module feedbacks or sent emails, which is really sweet of them. And I'll read these for the sake of accessibility. What I got last year was said Rosie was my first year. Was in my first year as my lecturer in Introduction to Law. Not only did she create a learning plan that facilitated learning types, but she included all gender types, and I felt seen. She has a way of creating space for everyone on the table, making work that can often be dry, exclusive for neurodivergent individuals. I think that meant to be inclusive. But she also managed to create queer spaces and safe spaces for everyone to learn. Within a seminar, she makes it known she's more than happy to help and never judges. If we struggle, she includes everyone, makes sure to speak respectfully as well as equally, and goes beyond in making sure everyone is comfortable speaking and gaining opinions. She's cheerful in her teaching. She makes a point not to pick on people during seminars, which is someone with anxiety I genuinely appreciate. And I really appreciate the way you deliver your seminars and accommodate for everyone. Your seminars are ones that I find people participate in the most out of all the ones I've been to. Thank you for the way that you teach. So lots of really, there's another one, sorry. Sessions. So again, this stuff was unprompted. I bawl my eyes out at my desk every time I get an email or something like this, because it really does mean a lot. That say they feel seen and they feel like they're getting more out of their course because of it as well. So yeah, some nice comments that I've had back, but also I'm now like, I kind of, because you need to, as we all know, you need to produce stuff to keep your job. I need to get some kind of more empirical data out of this now as well, and start doing some actual empirical work. So that will be the next. Have to speak to these questions directly, but maybe some stuff. I know I always struggle after a presentation because my brain's like, whoa, information's so cool, everything's great. I can't think of a single question. So if you need any prompts, here's some for you. What's the most interesting or surprising thing you've learned about safety tools in teaching? Maybe you use them already. Maybe it's the first time you thought about them. Which safety tools do you think might be the most useful for in your own discipline, your own level of teaching? And one thing I'm really reflecting on a lot is what are the potential limitations of using safety tools as well. I find them really positive to use, and that they're not for everybody, and there will be limitations to using them. So I really want to investigate what those challenges are and think about how I can overcome them or navigate them. And I'd be interested to know if you've got thoughts about that as well. So here's a list of the resources. I did link my presentation further up in the chat, although I can repost it. That's no problem. So you can get access to these links as well. And thank you so much for listening. I really look forward to your questions and feedback. And thank you for having me along today.